Hello, welcome to the guest show. Today, I'm very pleased to have with me Mark Brennan of Housing Justice. It's a great title, isn't it? I'm thinking about that now.
And you know what, Ian? When people, whenever you say who you work for, and then people say it back to you, but they don't seem to be able to say housing justice. They almost always come back and say housing for justice. Housing for justice is what people sort of what registers for them when they sort of recite it back. If you ask them, for some reason. But yeah, no, housing justice. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
a.
but the title,
Mm,
think about it.
mm.
Um, I don't know, give an example. I don't know what example I can give. Homelessly, let's use them for example.
Yeah,
Now, if I heard that title, I'd be thinking they're going to link homeless people together, but they link homeless organizations together.
mm.
Housing justice, I don't know what, because I remember I've known Alistair, your predecessor,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
years. I
yeah.
never asked him because I was there for a different reason.
Mm. Yeah, you should. Alistair's great.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So what does housing justice do? Just let's start with that first of all.
Yeah, it does a few things. It's been going for quite a long time. I think it celebrated its 60th about 4 or 5 years ago, I think, 60th anniversary. But these days, I mean, we used to do quite a bit of campaigning, and we still do a little bit more supporting other campaigns than our own. But because I think campaigning is quite a specialist kind of thing, really.
Hmm.
But or it is these days anyway. But essentially does three things. There's something called faith, and it's important to know that there are two divisions to housing justice at the moment. There's housing justice Cymru working in Wales and housing justice in England. Some talk about moving into Scotland, but that might be a bit premature even to say that. It's in they're working on it, early days. But three things. Faith in affordable housing is where, and they've had more success with this in Wales, although things are coming along nicely in England now, but they've had more success in Wales because of the devolved government, and it isn't quite as complicated in Wales as it seems to be in England. But it's basically about taking redundant church land, church property, and trying to convince those churches to redevelop on there in order to create uh, genuinely affordable social homes for people.
Hmm.
Um, and then we have Citadel is a more recent thing that if people have heard of um, what's the name? Centre for Homelessness Impact.
Yeah.
They working on 8 test and learn initiatives, of which we're doing one called Citadel, and it's all about pairing up volunteers to support people who are precariously housed or have recently been rough sleeping and put into accommodation, and trying to help them to sustain and secure that tenancy and make sure that they sustain it more than anything. So
Hmm.
whether it be living skills, paying bills, all manner of stuff, whatever the person needs to make sure that they don't fall out of that property, basically. But the work that I've been involved with since 2005, no, 2006 with Housing Justice is the emergency accommodation team, which is essentially the what is predominantly the winter shelter network, although a growing number of them are turning into year-round projects, have been over the years. But people will know them as winter shelters, but it's become quite a bit more than that. And so we've partnered with what was DLUC, now going back to the MHCLG, and also with the GLA in London, the Greater London Authority, to help resource and support those projects, which are essentially sort of grassroots faith and community projects, to provide emergency shelter accommodation for people coming off the streets or falling out of precarious housing, you know. And yeah, that's those are the three
Funny,
things.
because I got on the street in 2006.
Mm,
So I met Alistair about 2016.
right.
All right. because he was chairing the soup kitchen forum in Westminster.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
He used to go
I took
speak.
that on from Alistair when he left. Yeah, yeah. So I did it for a few years.
Is that still going?
It's not, unfortunately.
Yeah,
It's
that was quite interesting. I remember the first time I walked in there, some guy, I won't mention who he is, came in and said, "We got." It was at St Martin, Connections at St Martin's, the
yeah,
meet, which is my day centre when I was homeless.
right.
And this guy came and said, "We've got to get out of here. This place is totally wrong for us." Very political statement. But I also remember one of them spoke about StreetLink, how they contacted StreetLink several times and they got nothing happening. So I reported that.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, I was there. I think I went there for a couple of years. That was it. It wasn't the side that I want to report on. I
Mm,
was more interested in what I got in the end, started reporting on the benefit system initiatives that were happening,
right.
which to me was more important for me. I know I
Yeah.
don't write for the paper anymore. They want me to, I just finding time.
Hmm.
And I must admit, I just got an email from the editor because I'm in the meeting email list.
Mm.
I'm going to try and bring him on to talk about what they're doing because nobody knows about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Only people like it's like who I've not until I went to a meeting with the Centre for Homeless Impact. I know, no, I saw a conference
Mm,
about homelessness they did in October last year, or November. I'd never heard of them.
right.
And really, they are as big as homelessness, and homelessness are a big organisation.
Mm.
Um, but no, it's interesting what you're saying. I'm processing some things you said about the difficulty now with. I never used the night shelters.
Mm.
No, I tell a lie. I tried connections like shelter for 2 nights. I walked out. Couldn't
Right.
sleep.
Yeah. 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 I can
Yeah,
imagine.
couldn't see. I had blokes walking around. And the last time I was on the street, I was told by the worker at Connections, "If you need something homeless," I went there, "You've got to use the night shelter, I won't help you." And I said, "Then you won't help me." I knew he couldn't say that,
Mm, mm.
but it's funny about bullying. But we were going to talk about a different subject today, weren't we?
Hmm.
You may remember. Why don't you introduce it? Or should I introduce it?
Well, well, as I recall how our sort of pre-chat went when we were talking about doing this, it was like you know, there's obviously this whole emphasis on homelessness, but the whole point of homelessness and sort of exploring it and trying to understand it is because we need to understand better what home is.
Mm,
And people tend not to talk so much about home, not in our sector and stuff. It's all about homelessness. But when the point is, what does homelessness tell us about home? And so, yeah, what's your take, Ian? You contribute to why we came
let
up
me
and
just
said
think
this is
some of
what we
my
need to
life.
focus on.
You like my life philosophy. It's something I've learned over the centuries, and
Yeah.
it feels like over the centuries. But some of the beliefs I have is, I'm thinking for me personally. Now, I've been on the street 3 times. First time a year and a half, the other two are only a few months.
Mm,
I wouldn't say every single place I ended up in felt like home.
right. Yes.
Where I am now, I'm in an old age complex. We're all old age pensioners, yeah.
Mm,
Don't talk to each other. Most of them don't talk to you and they look at you as though you're strange. You say hello.
yeah. Yeah.
But my place feels like home.
Mm,
I wouldn't say it's the most, I wouldn't say I've got all the furniture I wanted. The pool table didn't arrive, so I'm quite annoyed about that. But there were things here like, look, when I moved in, most people think of a table. I don't, because most places I've gone to, I've really people rarely visit me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I sometimes won't allow them in.
Mm,
But for me, the most important thing I got was a desk.
right.
That meant I could work. So that made it home. And now,
Gotcha. Yes.
you know, in the living room downstairs, I go, right, there's some chairs. I had a
Yeah.
couple of folding chairs I moved to. Now I've got it's home.
Mm,
These little elements, isn't it?
absolutely. Yeah. I was chatting to a really fascinating chap on the weekend. I was at a wedding and I was talking to this fella from Auckland, New Zealand, and he's currently sailing all around the eastern half of the North American continent. Him and his wife, they're 65 years of age, just the two of them, and they're cruising up Mississippi River up to the Great Lakes into the Canada. It's like, wow, like fantastic. And I was asking him, where's home, because he sounds like he's a bit of a traveler. It's just interesting to say. I suppose it came up because I was chatting to a chap. I was doing an event thing on a panel with this guy, and he was saying about, he's really passionate. And whenever you meet people in the sector, they're really passionate about homelessness, aren't they? It's more than just a job for so many people, it's a vocation because, it really sort of goes deep, you know what I mean, for people. And he was saying that whenever he wants to try and enroll people, engage people, get them involved, if he puts, and he's using social media, if he puts anything out, he'll put stuff out about him paddleboarding and he gets like hundreds of likes and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. If he puts something out about homelessness, he might get a handful, if that. Like it's when you say homelessness, people don't really want to talk about it, do they? Because it's kind of a bit of a sensitive subject, and it's like, and more often than not, there's some pretty miserable stories you're going to come out with inevitably if you start talking about homelessness. But if you turn the tables and you say, okay, well, what's home then? And it makes it a different kind of conversation. And then through that avenue, you can start getting into the whole issues of homelessness and all the underlying stuff and everything.
Well, it's interesting because,
Yeah.
as you know, on LinkedIn, I post not every day, but I post, and they're not. I'm not saying about oh, I've just had a cup of tea. It's
Mm.
usually either a political thing
Yeah.
I observed, and today, this morning, there was something that made me angry, and I don't get angry as such. It was a lady who must be a black lady
Mm.
who says lived in Oxford,
Mhm.
and her car was well not ruined. They wrote on
Yeah, I
it,
saw that. I saw that, Ian. Yeah.
and I
The
wrote
profanity they put on the, oh, it was awful, ugly. Yeah.
like my feeling is about these sort of people is they're usually cowards. They don't
Mm.
talk to anybody else. They'll I was brought up as a Jewish person.
Mm.
I believe in God. That's it now. I'm not into traditional religions. The only religion I believe in is my football team,
Mm.
which is very sacred. But I remember in Italy, there was this bloke there. I was about 19 when I went to Italy with a group of my mates. And I worked in the travel business at the time, so we got reduced flights, everything. And there's this bloke, for some reason, he would call the waiters Diego, which is Spanish, but shows
Yeah.
he was ordering them around. I said, look, why are you doing that? They're trying to do a job. Oh, yeah. Then we started talking. He said, the people I can't stand are Jewish people. They've got all that money. So I said to him, do you know I'm Jewish? He said, oh, I didn't mean you. I mean the others. You know the sort I'm talking about. And that's usually what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody talk about any race,
Mm.
they'd be saying, they'd talk about the race, but they'd be saying, if you said to them, oh, I've got a friend there, or you are that, I no, don't mean you, because they're scared. In other words, to me, they're cowards.
Mm. Mm.
They're talking about if you believe in something, like I'm a God, the person I can't, used to be Suella Braverman for
Mm.
her racist comments. Now
Mhm.
it's Nigel Farage because he's a con man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had somebody in the, I told you I go to the bookies, turn around and say, and Nigel, he's talked to us. No. He's similar to Adolf Hitler. He knows what he's talking about. I've heard now he's back in America giving a talk for about so much money. As you may remember, this weekend he declared his earnings.
Mm.
You know what? It's UB News is over £1 million. He gets in a month more than he gets in a year as an MP.
Mm.
And now he's trying to say, I don't earn that money, my companies do. And it's the difference. It's how people, and I'm using that as an example of how people want to be seen and how they portray things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
That's where we come to home again.
Mm. Mm.
Um, for our listeners who don't understand, when you go for a hostel system, you're put in a first stage flat. First stage flat that I got was actually in Whitechapel, the area I was born. And I was very well known in Whitechapel for being a nice guy. And people said, when I walked out that flat and walked down the main waste of Whitechapel, where you been? We haven't seen you. So I told them I'd gone around the country. I didn't want to say I'd been homeless.
Yeah.
I think now I would say it.
Mm.
And I had that place for 2.5 years. Then they offered me this place in Surrey Keys. That became home within 2 months. But I could not decorate it or put anything up on the walls. Didn't bother me. Number one, I'm used to decoration. You get more paint on me than the walls.
Yes.
And the other thing is, it's not my sort of scene, putting up posters and all that.
Mm.
Yeah. But the thing is, what makes a home? Like I told you, for me, I've got Crisis got me a 2-seater sofa.
Mm.
I call it the sofa of sleep. Yeah, when I sit on it, I fall asleep.
Right. Yeah.
But it's nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice sofa. I bought myself, and since my friends I bought myself one earlier the year. It's great. But the main thing is my laptop. My laptop,
Mm.
my phone. Actually, if we look at it, I'm a technical person. If we look at it, like I've got a very good phone. I'm paying off bit by bit. And it is expensive, but it's a good phone.
Mm.
It's not a Samsung or iPhone because I don't want an iPhone because of certain reasons.
Yeah.
I like a MacBook if I can get one, yeah. So
Mm.
anybody hearing Ian wants a MacBook, all right?
Don't never pass up an opportunity.
Never
Yeah.
pass opportunities, never pass opportunities to beg, you know. But my phone is something called the Honor Magic 4 Plus, and they weren't by Huawei. They've been, and I wouldn't have got it, but they've got the Google system, and it's fantastic.
Mm.
It's the model now is 2 years old.
Mm.
But I don't know what I'm going to do when I will get it because I like the latest Android system and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
And I am
yeah.
a technical person. I understand technology more than most people.
Mm.
But this is great. But I use my phone for most things.
Mm.
I
And
use
you're talking about the home comforts, Ian, which absolutely that's all part of it. And sometimes I've asked people, well, was because the words house and home get conflated all the time. And it really annoys me when the government makes declarations and puts press releases out there and said, we've built X number of homes for whoever. You know what I mean? It's like government does not build homes.
well,
Yeah.
that's the thing. They're in their manifesto. It's
Mm.
Conservatives are the same.
Yeah.
They declared they're going to build 1.5 million homes by the end of their parliament in 5 years. Or is it 4.5 years time?
Mm.
Not even that. 5 years time, we can call it. The Conservatives said they'd buy so many homes a year, they never came anywhere near it.
Yeah.
and they were going to finish rough sleeping, which I was on a panel to talk with the government about.
Yeah.
And the person I know, I said to him, "Do you think this is real? Because I can't see it happening."
Yeah.
He said, "Yes, I trusted him." And then I think it was about a year or so ago, something came out called the Thursday report. This is impossible. These promises, like there's another thing that I've been researching, I've actually asked about. The Mayor of London actually stated he would end rough sleeping by the year 2030.
Right.
So,
And it's important to make a distinction there and say, look, it's one thing to try and end conspicuous rough sleeping. It's a whole other ball game to end the wider issue, the problem of homelessness.
well, that's
Because
another thing
yeah,
I mentioned before. In October, I'm starting that new series, Real Lives documentary. And one of
right.
them I want to do, what is homelessness?
Yeah.
I do think if you went to most people on the street, they'd be pointing to the guy on the street.
Yeah.
Well, that's a homeless person, but he's not.
Yeah.
I will admit that when I came off the street, I wasn't involved. Now I was just trying to survive.
Mm,
But somebody said homelessness. Are we going homelessness? Are you going rough sleeping?
mm,
I never realized it included temporary housing, squatting, people in. When I was in a hostel, I wasn't homeless. I mean, I was under
yeah,
law.
yeah.
But to answer, to go on to that little point about them, so I wrote to the press office because that's what I have to deal with, unfortunately.
Mm,
I wrote to the press office and said, the mayor declared this in manager. What's he doing about it? Could you let me know by Thursday, 5 o'clock? This is on Tuesday morning. I said, no. You know, when you deal with these things, you've got to give them a deadline. That's you're over here. Oh, you're here in a week's time or 2 weeks' time. Well, at 5 o'clock, nothing.
mm.
And I have to, usually what I do is on that day, like today, later on, some stage, I've got to record the news one for Friday.
Right.
And I don't know
Mm,
if I'm going to do it. I might even leave it, do it tomorrow morning now.
yeah.
And I got really pissed off with it. So I wrote an email to the person, and all I got back was a bounce back. He's on holiday at the moment. And he actually came back that day and said it'll be handled.
Mm,
So then I wrote to the general one. I just said, look, and what I did was I attached his email when he said, you'll be answered.
mm,
And I thought, I won't get an answer till tomorrow, but it's getting out of my system.
mm. We're,
Um,
we've got an annual conference coming up in October, and we've just sort of decided on what the theme will be. And the theme is homelessness ends in communities.
mm,
And I think nowhere near, well, not that many people are even aware of just how significant the homeless sector is in London in particular, in this country, and some of the other major cities, and Manchester, Birmingham. But it is so huge, and it's actually, and I use this word kind of intentionally and provocatively, it's become an industry.
it is.
Yeah, by which I mean, there are people profiting, considerable amounts out of homelessness. So, but the homeless sector, we've created this really quite significant and complex and nuanced and multifaceted homelessness social structure. You know what I mean? There's social structure, and it's wonderful. And there's been a heck of a lot of learning that's come out of it. It really is, tremendous. There's a lot to be said for it. The problem is, it ain't going to end homelessness
Nah.
alone on its
Well,
own.
let me
Any of
finish.
those services, you can carry on growing these services, and doing all this stuff for people and everything. You know what I mean? But homelessness will ends in communities. It ends when homelessness is faced and embraced and engaged with, knowing that in doing so, we all better understand what home is, and the fact that everybody deserves a home, especially right as a youngster, because there's a huge link that's been made between childhood trauma and homelessness in later
Mm.
life. If people aren't growing up in really quality homes and the kind of support network that a home provides, then you stand to be at much greater risk of homelessness in later life. So, and it's really important which is why talking about homes, I think, is why we decided, that's going to be the main focus of what we wanted to talk about, because it's so important. But what has happened as a result of all this learning that's come out of really exploring homelessness and understanding all the underlying stuff that's going on that we've learned from the sector, it's informing us about the value of homes and what it takes to be a really quality home to ensure that people are uh, they fulfill themselves, they thrive as human beings, they fulfill their potential, they strive for their dreams and ambitions and all that kind of stuff. That's what we all need, every human being needs. And uh, I think so why are we and this is it, why are we in the situation that we currently are with all these, expressed targets of ending rough sleeping and homelessness by whatever year by successive governments and all the rest of it. And we are today is it the worst it's ever been, I think,
Yes.
since we started recording, you know what I mean? And measurements and stats and all the rest of it.
Well,
It's the worst.
I'll finish my story about the mayor.
Sorry, and
No,
go for
but
it.
this is what you said is actually say other things to you. Because I
Mm,
know the facts. I feel I know the facts of this.
mm.
So I got a reply back.
Oh, right, yes.
Standard, we're going to build houses.
Right.
So I thought that's sometimes my term for those sort of quotes is a blah blah quote. They don't
Mm,
make any sense.
mm,
So I went back and said, look, I was asking how you doing homelessness, not what you're going to build.
mm.
I want an answer. I just said that. I thought I wouldn't get a reply.
Yes.
There were times I contacted Dulac. I've had
Mm,
no reply, and I had to go through the complaints procedure to reply.
mm,
But I suppose I'm a bit of a bastard about knowing questions. Half an hour later, I got a call, reply back. It said, oh, they're still in the planning stage, but from now on, you'll be on the mailing lists. To anything we do with us sleeping, you'll know. My feeling about that reply, that was a placating reply.
mm,
I've kept it
mm.
because end of September,
Mm.
I'll be chasing them
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because
Good.
they don't want to answer. Now,
Mm,
when you said about a business, that reminds me, when I was doing my social care course, I won't mention the organization because I think they're all the same in this way. It was a hostel in South London. And I was there, I was knowing that I was there as what they call a peer mentor, but from it I got a social care qualification. I didn't mind. My job was to talk to the people, no confidentiality. I do a report each individual. I couldn't say I've seen 6 people today, but no, every single person I saw had been noted. And they use computers, and I did make remark that what the cloud goes down, what do you do? And they didn't have an answer to that. And I'm in the computer free was in the office that day. And the team leader was speaking to the people who empty their voids, their empty rooms.
mm.
Them. And she said this to them, I always remember, it's losing us £2,000 a week. That's a 42-bed hostel. So
Mm,
I worked it out, you're talking about £500,000 coming in a year,
mm,
plus other stuff coming.
mm.
So it is a business, you're right. And I think that sometimes the rights of the individual is seen over the business.
Yeah.
I was at a meeting we were talking about, and this thing about talking, they were talking about how can we look after it. And I'm a very person who believes in monitoring. I'll give an example. I got involved with what was called a national advisory panel. Gentleman ran it. phoned me up out of the blue. This was when COVID started. I thought, that's the end. I'm going to be bored out of my head for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
I had my laptop there to play games, but I'm not a games person. Right, I suppose. But, and all of a sudden this guy phoned me up. It happens he knows loads of people, this particular person. He chose me. I mean, it's mainly because I'm a writer. Because I was on this panel with all these professionals all working. They all lived experience. They were working in the area. And they persuaded the government for housing grants to put co-production as part of their underlying element. You must have some co-production. I do remember, I think it was the guy who worked in Leeds who was on the panel. We've got, I wouldn't say we were not, I don't think it's over from Newcastle, but we had to have translation. But this guy from Leeds turned around and said, because he knew the council well, he'd been to a meeting. They'd done nothing about co-production. They put in for the money. So there is no real monitoring of how funds go out. I spoke to you. I've been looking for money for the podcast. There's none.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got to find them. I'll have to go back to bank robbing. That's only one. But sometimes some organisations get a lot of money, and they're going to use the word, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, doing bugger all, but they're doing it for the money, not the client. One organisation I did some work for, they put me in this young people's hostel. Had about 80 young guys there. They put me in as a resettlement worker. I just come out of the hostel system. I didn't have much to do, but I'm a trainer. That's what I do. I know where to look. So I did what I created a training course to prepare them to move on. Like, think about your transport. Think about where you're going to get your Oyster card. Where's the nearest bank? Where's the nearest store? Those sort of basic things. Don't think that. And then look at budgeting. So it was all in that training course. But they had 82 people there. They had one guy who owed, and as you know, for those people who don't know, it's not called rent when you're a hostel, it's service charge.
Yeah.
This guy had £1,000 back paying. And I said to them, when they gave me his name, they told me why. They said, oh, this person's good, but most are all great. They were ready to move on. This one person actually said to me, he owes £1,000 in back service. I said, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to move out. He's not going to pay his rent. He's going to, and what I used to do, I met with each individual. I met with this group of Eritreans. And that's another thing. I found them a place. Bloke's the bloke. And as soon as I said hostel and Eritreans, he said, that'd be trouble. But this guy, I spoke to him, I said, look, you haven't paid your rent. Yeah, so what? Don't you think you should pay it? Nah. Well, they're thinking about moving you out. Great. What are you going to do with your new landlord when you rent? Won't pay it. So they hadn't educated this guy in any way. Like, personally, I'm a heart bastard. I would say he should be on eviction. That's a lot of money, £1,000. And I'm talking, must be 8 years ago. So we're talking more now, really. But he was allowed to, if they confront him about it, maybe he would look to reality, because they let him go. And nobody was scared to confront, we call it in the East End, front him up. So there is this thing of money.
Yeah.
They were willing, and I said to him, well, of course, they've got the right to refuse him coming back there. Then. And that's the problem I see, that a lot of them look at the money side. Not all of them.
Yeah.
But there is a section. I was going to say about the young people's hostel. I used to work there 2 days a week. And I came in one day, and it's in the cellar where all the officers were. So my desk, the desk they let me use was I went to it, and he's moaning. I wondered, what's wrong? What's wrong? Our salaries have been reduced from 25 grand to 19 grand. I thought, that's bloody cheap, you know.
Mm,
And I thought nothing of it, but I was involved in an organisation. Was involved in an organisation called Cardboard Citizens,
mm,
and the advice worker there used to work for this organisation. I then mentioned it to her. I said, very funny. The CEO just got a rise, everyone else got a cut. In my opinion, and maybe I'm wrong, it should be them who should get the pay rise, she should get the pay cut.
mm, mm,
Yeah, and it is this thing of, because I know at that place in South London, I was there for 6 months. During that 6 months, the staff changed 3 times. Okay,
mm,
my line manager stayed, the team leader stayed, and the manager of the place stayed. Apart from that, the other 3, 4 people always seemed new people. And one girl came in, and I said, "How you find? Why'd you do it?" Because I'm always interested in how people do things. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to make a big change. Unfortunately, you'll face the system. And
mm,
by she left in a couple of months, she realized she couldn't do anything.
mm,
So it's, why is it happening? I think the wrong people are in charge. Make me in charge. I'll do it. Nah, I don't think. I don't think I maybe, but I think the main thing is that people come into this field and they don't know the reality of what they're facing.
mm.
Yeah. What do you think?
Um, all of the above, what you said, and so much more that's going on for people, and you've got to look at each individual and what's brought them to the situation that they're in. And
Mm,
it's like, you know, I've said sometimes about some of the projects in our network that often what they're doing when someone arrives in a shelter and them having bounced around in various services and everything, you know what I mean, and all the rest of it, is they're unraveling. They're unraveling because people get tied in knots. This sector, as I was saying, it's that complicated and there's so much going on, and to try and understand and appreciate that it just ties you up in knots.
mm.
So it's like you almost have to unravel everything and say, okay, and what have you learned from this now? And now you haven't got these knots anymore and everything. Now let's start thinking about how we can take you down some pathway that that will help you not get in knots again, not get all knotted up again. Yeah. Because there's so much to take on board. Like you say, service charges, hostels, B&Bs now being used, TA bursting at the seams of all different types. Report come out about, you know, a good chunk of it is such poor quality that children are dying in there. You know what I mean? It's like it's awful. It's an awful situation. Although I've got to say, this government is making still very new, but seems to sort of understand, is making some good noises. Angela Rayner's talking about we need to work together with the other parties. You know, this isn't something that we are going to solve, our party's going to solve over the others. Everyone's got to work together, and it's got to be so it's got to be cross government, it's also got to be cross domains, social domains, you know, and realize that housing is a health issue, you know. If people aren't living as is currently the case because they can't afford it in appropriate quality, safe accommodation, they're going to get sick. And that's going to put pressure on our health system. And people are going to resort to criminal activity if they haven't got jobs they can hold down. And this is exactly what's happening and has been happening for all too long. And people don't realize the degree to and the scale and the scope of it. There's a huge underclass in this country and a growing underclass in this country because the system doesn't work for them.
Well, I know that one thing, when you said that, I can't say everything about it because I've only heard about it, is they are looking at taking in lived experience as advice for this collaboration
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
parties, which is good. I've
Mm.
got that already from a friend of mine.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm going to give you another example. I was at the museum about, must be now 6 weeks ago. Nicola, who's been on the podcast 3 times, is coming down. I want to talk to her about her project that she's doing for me. But also, I wanted to get Matt and Jess to tie down the interview.
Mm.
They were very busy, they're very nice.
Mm.
You know, I had my talk with Nicola about the project that she's got to do, which I'm sort of producing this one. And Matt comes out, I apologize. So I say, I understand. But I want to talk about another thing that happened when I arrived. I came into their garden area,
Mm-hmm.
didn't know who was going. All of a sudden, I heard this name, Mr. Cowman, Mr. Cowman. Now, nobody calls me by my surname.
Right.
I think very few people even know it. This guy did.
Oh, yeah.
He was a guy I met the first day I went to Lincoln's Inn, a handout.
Oh, right.
What a small world.
Mm.
Now, that first year, which was 2006, he'd been in and out of 4 places. 3 places I heard about, I wasn't sure. But then in September, I heard he moved up to Swindon. He does come somewhere up north anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days, and what was the group I was with, a group of people I knew said, "What are you doing over winter?" I said, "I'll be on the street." Well, I didn't know nothing. You're coming with us. We're going to Christ at Christmas. So you had to go to what building doesn't exist anymore, the P&O built in the city, to register. Went there, asked for the quiet shelter. It wasn't that quiet, I'll tell you that. So gave my name, sitting on a table, waiting to be, for the minibus.
Mm.
He turns up. And I said to him, I thought you had a place in Swindon. I've rented it out. Total lie.
Yes.
Never went back in the end.
Mm.
Did embarrass me at one point because they called the group out. My name wasn't called, his name was called. He threw a wobbly. And I was embarrassed. But I
Mm.
understand stress.
Mm.
I'm a patient man. Waiting 200 years to get this place. So there we are. But we sat down. He told me he's been in and out of places since I know him. So we're talking about what, 18 years now.
Mm. Mm.
And he said to me that the museum does a bond. I said, "Look, Gary, you've been in and out of places. How do you know you're even going to keep it? What's the point?"
Mm.
And then he dropped more information I got out of him. And he said, I was in Edinburgh for a year and a half. I had to leave bills. Because my thing is, Mark, if we go back to our schooling, like you're a young chap, when I went to school, it was a cave next door. We're not trained how to handle bills.
Mm.
We're not even trained in politics. I didn't get interested in politics as soon after I got off the street.
Mm.
I learned everything. And
Mm.
so many people don't realize that, when bills appear, it doesn't mean what's written in that paper goes with it. It's going to be changed. Like
Mm.
one bloke, read me the Rent Reform Act about 2 years ago. And I said to him, forget it. And now we're still waiting for it because other things. But with this gentleman, and I like him,
Mm.
until he gets handed, look, I'm the same. I will admit one of my weaknesses was money. That's the reason I'll end up on the street. I had a breakdown over debt.
Mm.
Nothing else.
Mm.
Didn't know what to do. Not used to asking for help. And I think
Mm.
a lot of people recognize that one
Mm.
because who do you ask?
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you say, "Oh, I'll ask me Aunt Flo,"
Mm.
but Aunt Flo might tell you to piss off, because she doesn't want to deal with it.
Mm.
So who do you want? But also, I don't think we're trained to make a realization that builds anything. I look in, and I'm not brilliant. I'm better than I used to be.
Mm.
But I think that is the reason a lot of homeless
Mm.
people are homeless is that financial, like as we know, that a lot of evictions are because number one, well, the Section 21s, either, and I learned this when I did some research. I met somebody who used to be an estate agent. She told me that if they saw a place they get more rent for, they say to the landlord, evict them under Section 21, I'll get you more money.
Mm.
Not
Mhm.
very nice. There's no defense against Section 21.
Mm.
Um, where Section 8 you could argue with, but you can't get Section 21.
Mm.
So we're looking at an area where what is a home,
Mm.
and it's difficult. Like I'm very simplistic. After you, I'm going to have a nap and I've got another interview at 7. All right.
Mm.
But I was waiting for you. I was watching YouTube on television. I could watch it on my phone. Yeah.
Mm.
But it's really what I think what do you want in your home is the main thing.
Mm.
Might be. I don't know. It's like, what do you want?
Well, as I was saying, you've got all the sort of home comforts in terms of furnishings, however you like it, furnished and all the rest of it, and warmth and all that kind of stuff. But when I talk about what an important sort of what distinguishes house from a home is the people in
Mm,
it, who you're living with and alongside. And I think I mentioned when we first spoke, Ian, I grew up in a big Irish Catholic family. I'm one of 8 boys. Yeah.
mm,
And I went to school with a good mate of mine, and he was an only child. And he was always envious of me about having all brothers. And I was always envious of him of being an only child.
mm,
Because I had enough, you know what I mean, of being in a crowded house and everything and sleeping top and tailing in a bed and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? It was like, I wanted my own bed and all that kind of stuff. So there's all that, but something we all need is like well, across those 3 aspects of the support network, familial, social, professional. Social being friends, acquaintances, all that kind of stuff. Professional being work, you know, all types of work. Doesn't have to be paid work, you know what I mean? But work is
mm.
really important.
I was actually talking to somebody about that today. Who helps me out with the podcast. Who's done it,
Right,
and that he said this gives him a purpose.
right. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
But
Yeah,
I'm going to say to you, as I think I've said to you before, I'm an only child.
right.
I have no family.
Mm,
Although I was one of my cousins, well, he's a second cousin, saw me. He didn't know I was homeless at the time.
mm,
He said he always admired me because I was the rebel. I was acting at the time. He wants to be a musician. Now he's doing film work.
right.
But I've had one of my cousins contact me twice in the last few years. Each time said, we're keeping contact. I'm never from her at all.
Mm,
Now, maybe it's wrong for me. I should have contacted her.
mm,
And it is different. Some people, I'm a loner.
mm, mm.
But like if I get lonely, I phone a friend up.
Yeah.
For me,
And there's a huge scope to, a friend and an acquaintance and and just because you're very close to somebody, I can think about people that I was very close to for a few years in my life. But we've since gone, they're from another country, they're on the other side of the planet now and all that kind of stuff. And so we don't stay in touch regularly and everything, you know what I mean? So I don't know. I think about it sometimes as concentric circles. If you put yourself in the middle, yeah, and you draw a whole bunch of concentric circles, and across those 3 realms of a support network, family, friends, professionals, plot out where all these people are and where who's in your inner circle at any given
Mm.
time realizes that it changes. For sometimes it might be this person that's out here, and then they sort of, for some reason, you get close for whatever, and they become part of your inner circle for a while, and then it changes over the course of your life. But it's important to have in your inner circle, I think, a people that you can trust so implicitly that you can talk to about literally anything. That's the important thing. Because we
Well,
all have,
this
huh?
channel will be listening. I trust him implicitly, even though he's a
Gosh,
West Ham fan. I
yeah.
feel sorry for him. But we're coming towards the end, unfortunately, Mark. This has been
Mm,
fascinating.
mm. And we didn't even get into the whole shamanic thing or anything, did we?
Well, in a way, we are. Remember one thing, like people always think that thing of shamanism, which I'm into, it's
Mm,
the philosophy.
mm.
Um,
But it's connected to what I was just saying there, because what I'm saying is if we don't, we've all got a common human psyche,
mm,
an inner world, why do we sleep so much? Why do we have to sleep? Why do we dream? We go into our inner world, the human psyche, and it's a fascinating place. And it's the reason what goes on in the psyche determines what we do in the waking world, how we behave, how we think, how we perceive, how we interpret. It's all down to what is going on, the dynamics of the human psyche, and all that stuff that we could get into. We'll have to do another session and get into this stuff, and we can get into the
well, I'm
shamanic
going
journey.
to,
The
I
shamanic journey
will,
is exploring that psyche, isn't it?
I
That's
will
what it's about.
finish this with this
Okay.
statement. And this is going to put people never want to listen to me again. I don't care. In the Native American terms, I'm what they call a dream walker.
Okay.
The idea of a dream walker is you can walk through people's dreams. Yes, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's basic journey.
Mm,
But also you can see if somebody describes me to a dream,
mm,
I will see it. And usually in dreams, I'm one who I suppose goes with more Jung's theory, is
mm,
that there's symbolism in all dreams.
mm,
I will see the symbolism. I'll see something there. Or if there are other dreams I won't mention, which are more the sound of sight on the supernatural level. But
yeah.
most of the time, these dreams are from our subconscious. I do
Mm,
believe that. I also
mm,
believe when Jung talked about universal conscious, we're all connected to, that's what we are. I think
mm,
that's what helps me. And I'm susceptible to it.
mm, mm.
But it's to believe, because if you had said this to me, I've been doing it only 40 years. But you said to me, saying 45 years ago, you told me about this, I said, you're crazy, mate.
Mm,
So it's to be able to change your perception.
mm,
There is a story written by a guy called Castaneda
mm,
about a shaman called Don Juan.
mm,
And in the book, it says how Don Juan would actually stop this person's world. What he'd do is go around the back and tap them on the back in a place. I've done it.
mm,
I don't know what happened. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Maybe
mm,
I should use a different hammer. But it's allowing,
mm.
because what we are, we're told these sort of things cannot be real. We're told these I'm not into that. I think there's more possibilities in this universe. As to use that fellow Shakespeare, who could be famous one day, there are more things in this world than we understand, Horatio. And I don't know why he keeps on talking this Horatio. I don't know the bloke. But he's talking about the possibilities, and there's loads of possibilities. And when
Yeah.
it comes to maybe if we think about this, we are the home. And when we go for what you said, the material stuff, that's like how I've recently had to get a walking stick
Mm,
because my walking isn't that good.
mm.
before that, I did use a walking stick when I went hill walking, but I would never use a walking stick. It means I'm could be a cripple. I'm not.
Mm.
Just I needed support. And
Mm.
that's the thing with elements in home. They're what supports us to make us feel comfortable.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very important part of home, isn't it? Yeah, for sure.
But
Definitely. And
yeah,
being able to talk about everything, because a lot of people, some people going to have these really dark thoughts and they get castigated for it and they get to the point where they feel no, they get a guilt complex and then they feel shame and then they start to they feel like in some cases people get ostracized, but in other cases people do it themselves. They say, I don't feel like I'm with these people, belong here with these other people. I can't talk about the things that I want to talk about. Or if I do, it
I
just and all that kind of stuff. It's like and that's how they so there's quite a lot of self-isolation going on for people because they just beat themselves up and they haven't got the kind of support network where they can just share about anything and talk about anything. And where you can do this, when you create a home doesn't have to be a tangible bricks and mortar kind of place. But if it's a place where you can trust and love and share and be compassionate and listen, that's these are all sort of elements that make a home and that help us grow as individuals and fulfill our potential and thrive, you know.
and that's the
So,
thing, what you just said.
mm,
It doesn't have to. I look. The only reason I have a desk is I don't want it on my lap. The
yeah,
laptop, right? That's the
yeah,
reason why. I
yeah,
always found laptops on laps. They're called laptops. They shouldn't be. They're called computers that go on desks. Um, little ones.
yeah,
Um, that will you feel comfortable. Like I think you realize by now, I'm a person who doesn't stop talking their truth.
mm,
But I know one thing: some people aren't accepted, and that's
mm,
okay. I'm not asking people to accept it.
mm,
I will still speak my truth.
mm.
And a lot of times people are scared of talking their truth because they'll be
Yeah, yeah.
ostracized.
And for good reason in a lot of cases because they're living in places where they will get beaten, where they will get criticized, where they will get trumped down. You know what I mean? It's like that's the problem, and so that isn't home. If that's what's happening to you when you're just talking and sharing about anything,
When I was in the
it's
hostel, my hostel was a wet hostel.
right.
That's a place where you can drink.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't drink.
Mm,
There were two television rooms in this hostel.
mm,
I decided to go in the one where nobody went in. Not because I could watch what I want. In the end, they gave me a telly to put on my shelf.
mm,
But there were some people, I had to be around. There was one guy who followed us around like a pet puppy.
mm,
That's not me. Maybe it's me. It's also your element of nature, of how you feel about yourself.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
Because we all want to be accepted.
Yes,
That's
yes.
the truth.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And if we're not accepted, we start wondering why. And then we put it down. It could be, I know a guy who went into, this is closed down now, Booth House. It's a big
Mm,
hostel in Whitechapel. And this guy helped my friend in the markets. I was on the street at the time. So he always started helping him. Nice guy. Couldn't believe it. Then about a year later, I walked past my mate's stall and I said, "Where's Richard?" He said, "He's dead." What he didn't know was Richard started using drugs since he got into that hostel.
right.
Right? But he did. When people do that, it's normally not the drug, it's being accepted. That's my theory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we shouldn't have to have that, but we do. Even me.
Mm.
Yeah, I've
We've
got
got we've got a strap line at the moment for our, when we sign off on the emails, and we've got a little strap line that we put on there, and it's from homelessness to belonging.
Mm,
And yeah, because belonging is really important, isn't it? It's like feeling like
it is.
you're, yeah,
You know,
part of something.
it's scared. You know,
Yeah.
this is my vision.
Mm.
I know I've been thinking. If somebody came to me and said, "Oh yeah, I'll invest money in your podcast." My first question is, say, "What do you want?"
Yes, yes,
Right?
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
take another person of mine has created something. She's got all these people looking at it and asking how much money. We'll put money in, but we want a percentage. And it's
Mm.
a not-for-profit thing. Mine's not-for-profit. I'm
Mm.
not going to say I wouldn't say I'm going to be honest with everybody. Yeah, I'd like to have a couple hundred quid a month out of it.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
fortune. It's
Mm.
the hours I do. Also helps
Mm.
with bills.
Mm.
Um, but I'd be very cautious. Anyone offers a penny even for this.
Mm. Mm.
So I'd like to put a penny into your thing. What do you want? If they said we want it just to grow bigger and bigger, great, they're in.
Mm.
If they
Mm.
said to me, and this is what I am thinking, that well, when you do any of your podcasts, your guests, we'd like to know who they are, and we might have to veto.
Mm.
That won't happen.
Mm.
I'm the only one who vetoes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it is the point of what you're doing it for. Are you
Mm.
doing it because okay, it's good. The product is good. Not perfect yet. It's getting there. Loads of little things like said before, ladies and gentlemen, this as you see me a few times on video. Now you know why I don't go on video. But it's a way of attracting the audience, making the audience big.
Mm.
May not work,
Yeah.
you know, because when you're good looking like me, Mark, you get lots of people on the see.
You'd be beating them away. Yeah. You'd be
Yeah, I know.
beating them off
Being
with a
away
stick.
with no feather because I want the attention. Anyway, I'm going to say thank you very much, Mark. And yeah,
Hey, it's been a
we'll do
pleasure.
this game.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah, because there's so much, to get into, and I think we've just sort of scratched the surface right now. So let's get into it a bit deeper next time. And but it's been great, and thank you for doing the podcast because I'm sure it does resonate, significantly with
Yeah,
people,
I, I must,
and that's the important thing.
I must admit, I don't get much feedback. I've had feedback from two people,
Mm,
8 months. Oh, no, three. There's one woman who's in Brighton, works for a charity in Brighton. She loves it.
mm,
There's apart from that, two people. In a month or so time, the people on the main list will be getting a survey. I
right.
want to know what works, what doesn't work.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Now, my theory is, and it's a true theory, is I think that mailing list, which is about 100, it's just gone up to 153 people.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I keep on thinking I don't want to put my other emails on that. No. I keep on no, but I'd like to know the opinion. Now I reckon out of that 153, 60 read them. There
Mm,
is a bit of software I can get, but I can't bother getting it. It costs money again.
mm, mm,
But at least it's building like the Monday's one on the Sunday when it went out.
mm,
Already beat it. It hasn't got much more.
mm.
But that was the audience. Now it will get more. It's like there's one email, one early one of Anthony's. Still builds up every week because
Is it
it's
Anthony Welsh you're talking about?
Anthony
Tony-
Well.
Oh yeah, he said, maybe I need to talk to him or something, or he wants to talk to me or something. So we'll do that. We'll have another conversation about it.
We'll
You
have
sent
another
an
conversation.
email, sent me, yeah,
But
yeah.
thank you very
Okay.
much also for all the stuff you keep on sending me. All
So,
right.
I mean, and
I'm not
you can tell me, and all right, enough, Mark. You know what I mean? It's like,
no, no, no. Look. I don't read it all. I'll tell you that because I've got time. But information is always useful.
mm, mm.
That's what that's what I rely on, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I'm going to do my closing thing. We're going to be being nice to each other for too long. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mark Brennan. Don't change your name again, Mark. I was going to call you something else. of housing justice. Now, maybe you'd like to know more about housing justice. With Mark's permission, I'll put his email on
You bet. Yeah.
the thing. And there's loads of things coming up. There's so many things coming up. Like we're now going into video, which is scary for me. My friend Neil is going to help me edit it because I can barely do some of the audio editing. Wait till this. And then in October, we're going to start something called Real Lives, which I think I put on. And the first two are going to be, the first one's definitely about mental health. And the gentleman who's presenting is Neil. At first, my vision was one episode on a subject. Instead of the guest show, which this is where it's the guest bringing the subject in, this is a subject based totally. So it's going to be an interesting thing. There's other things. But if you are interested in following me, please subscribe. This is because it's YouTube. They all say in YouTube channels. Yeah, please click subscribe and like. Because the algorithm, I don't know what it means, but it sounds good. The algorithm will help me get more people. But also, maybe you want to contact me. Maybe you have something to share. I won't say automatically all come on, because I do have criteria. I will not have anything untruthful on or something that's based on hearsay. But I will always talk to anybody. So always email me, and I'll put my email down below in the wording. And I'm going to wish you a pleasant week.